Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Thursday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and early 4 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, it's going to be a little bit of a different video today. I'll give you the whole line of thought. I want to talk about a moment in my life. It was when I believe I was 10 years old, 1976. I'm going to tell you about this moment that changed my life. I'm going to tell you how I came to do this video. Okay, I'm going through my news feed this morning. Usual thing. I'm up at 2 a.m. going through the news feed, all different stories, Newsweek to right-wing stuff to left-wing stuff, everything. And I see there's several stories on this woman, gubernatorial candidate in Arizona called Michelle Fiore, a right-wing nut, Trump supporter. She's got a lot of press lately because she put out a video, a campaign video, just about as far right-wing nut as you can get. And, trucks, guns, CRT banning, everything. Trump won the election. The whole thing. I'll put the links down below. Anyway, at the end of this article, there was a picture of her family Christmas card. Okay, it's got about I'd say about 8 to 10 members of her family, all wearing red shirts. A picture that you put on your Christmas card. All right. The youngest person is an infant in one of the women's arms, probably her daughter. And there's probably maybe a 4 or 5 year old boy. And then I think there's a grandmother standing next to Michelle Fiore. Anyway, they're all strapped. A Christmas card picture. And they're all except the infant, even the 4 or 5 year old boy holding weapons. And I'm just looking at this, I'm going to talk about how I was raised shortly, because this isn't about being anti-gun. But looking at this, I don't get it. There's a line here. There's a line here that people cross where they just worship weapons, and there's a group now that's worshiping weapons. As a matter of fact, I'll talk about that in another video. Jesus Christ's birthday, Christmas. And these people decide to put out, we're going to send this picture to our friends and family. Peace on earth, goodwill to men. And we're all holding weapons. Michelle Fiore herself is holding a sawed-off, I believe. Grandma's holding it looks like a MAC-10 or something. Even the little boy's got, I didn't even see, probably a Glock or something in his hand. This is their Christmas card. This is their picture for their Christmas card, and I just look at this and I wanted to talk about it, but then I started to think about how I was raised with guns. But there is such a difference between the way I was raised. My father was a hunter. I'm going to talk more about this. He was a hunter. He was a forest firefighter, and I'll put some pictures on my community page shortly. And he was the park ranger, the head man. We lived in the state house, it was like a cabin almost. Here's the front of it with my mom, a picture of my mother. That's the front of it. It was in they tore this down about 10 years ago, this house. It's in Watertown, Connecticut. It was in Watertown, Connecticut at Black Rock State Park. The house was on Bidwell Hill Road. Just so you guys know, this is all true story. All right, so I was going to talk about Michelle Fiore and his Christmas card, but I started thinking about how I grew up, and I want to talk about that. A very poignant time, a very poignant moment in my life that changed who I am forever. As you guys know, let me just get right into it. Okay, my father, like I said, a park ranger, and he was an avid sportsman. He hunted. I remember him hunting deer. My mother had deerskin gloves. We used every part of that animal we could. I still have the head to the deer downstairs here in my storage. My mother had deerskin gloves, the meat, everything. We used everything of the deer. My father just was an avid hunter, compound bows. He had a large gun collection. Okay. He had an Antonio Zoli over and under shotgun. I believe it was a solid rib 30-inch. I know it had one trigger. If you pull it soft, it would let one barrel, and if you pulled it hard, it would release both barrels. Had double buck in it. He taught me to shoot when I was 4 or 5 years old. I remember he had me shoot this gun when I was probably about 5 years old, and it knocked me on my ass. And he said, this gun is going to be loaded in me and your mother's room. Because this house we lived in, this house right here, was in the middle of nowhere. It was in the middle of the state park. We had no neighbors. We had no streetlights. The nearest house was over a mile away. We lived in the middle of the forest. And I could tell you guys some other stories about the weirdos that frequented these places at night, in the middle of the night. And so he kept this loaded. He had over 20 or 30, at least I inherited 30 of his firearms, pistols and everything, shotguns, a British 303, 444 Marlin, a little 22 lever, all these guns I inherited. Anyway, he told me when I was a little child, this is going to be loaded in your mother's room. Are you going to touch it? Do you respect it? And I was like, yes, sir. This is after he knocked me on my butt. He taught me the basics. Every gun is loaded. Every gun. Every gun is always loaded. Assume that. Think that. Remember that. Never point any gun at anything unless you intend to finish it. I got to be careful of the words I use in these videos. I got a warning the other day. How to clean them, how to hold it, everything. I learned this, probably when I was in kindergarten. Okay, so my dad passed away from terminal brain cancer when I was 9 years old. A terrible thing. It got to the point where he didn't even recognize me anymore. From the moment he realized he had brain cancer to when he passed away, it was only about 6 months. Okay, so we'll move ahead forward. Me and my mother and my little baby sister, 6 years younger than me, she was about 2 or 3 years old, and we're still living in this house in the middle of the woods. One night, it's about 10 p.m. Me and my mom are watching TV in the living room of this house. The living room window was right over on this side over here, and my baby sister was asleep in her bedroom. We hear a car pull up. I still to this day, I get nervous when I hear loud cars and stuff, because there was no traffic on this road at all. Nobody was on this road, and I got nervous, and we heard it stop in front of the house, and I got scared. I was sitting on the floor, and my mother was on the couch behind me, and I heard the doors open, and I remember looking at my mom, and my mom is just like a deer in headlights, just frozen, scared, petrified, sitting on the couch. And I look at her, and I hear the doors open to the car. And then I just hear this raucous smashing. I thought they were coming in the house. I thought they were coming up the sidewalk and coming to the front door. And again, I look at my mom. She's just frozen in fear on the couch. I remember the shotgun. Still, even after my dad died, my mother left it leaning against the windowsill in their room right behind me, about 12 steps away from where I was sitting on the floor. Still loaded. I knew how to use it. My mom wasn't moving. My baby sister was asleep in her crib. It was all up to me. There was just like one set of phone lines on this rickety telephone pole. They could have easily been cut. I always worried about people cutting our telephone lines. This is how I grew up, because my dad told me before he passed away that I was going to be the man of the family. 9 years old. So I start thinking, should I go get it? Should I go get the gun? My mom's not going to do anything. And it sounds like just you hear this smashing. And I think they're coming in the house, the front door. The front door was right behind her, right there. And like I said, I was sitting on the living room floor. And this is the moment, it was all up to me. Am I going to go get that weapon? Am I going to use it? It was a double barrel, over and under, loaded with double a buck. It would have done a lot of damage. Long story short, I got up, I stood up, I turned around to run and go into the bedroom door. I heard the door shut again, and I heard the car speed off right as I was going into the bedroom to get it. What would I have done once I got it? I truly believe I would have followed through. If they had come through the door, I would have done what I had to do at 10 years old to defend my mother and my sister. But this is something that I don't think very many 10-year-old boys have to make that decision right there and then. Am I just going to sit there? And, obviously my mother is not moving. She's terrified. my sister, my baby sister is, you know, am I going to defend my family? Am I going to do what might need to be done? Part of this too, when my father had me shoot this, I remember we had old outhouses and changing rooms that they took out of the park and they put up in fields up behind the house. And that's what we were shooting with, practice shooting with these guns when he taught me how to shoot. And I remember what that over and under with a buck would do to a door. Just with like 2 holes, and it blew it right off the hinges. And I pictured that as people coming through the door, you know, coming into the house, and all these things. 10-year-old boy. This is, you know, like I said, this is the moment that changed me. You know, I think I changed. It was a lot of weight and responsibility at that moment. It's a decision I don't think very many 10-year-old boys have to make. Anyway, turns out they were beating. See, here's a picture of me in my first communion jacket. This is looking out from the door where my mother's standing, looking out towards the road. The car was parked right here, apparently, and they were beating this mailbox with a baseball bat. Good times. That's what all the noise was. So we had a beaten mailbox the next morning. That's what all the racket was. But this is the moment that changed me forever. Made me grow up real quick. It was a very real decision at that moment. You know, the life, the actual life of my mother and my baby sister were in my hands. At least I truly believed that at that moment. And it was a changing moment in my life. Anyway, this is what came to mind. So, how this relates to Michelle Fiore and her Christmas card video, I'm not quite sure, you know. Like I said, it was, we had a lot of respect for the guns. My father would have never posed in a Christmas card with all of us holding his guns for a Christmas card photo. That I know for sure. He had more respect for us and for the weapons. Anyway, that's my video for right now. I'll be back later with another video. You guys have a great Thursday.